everyone. I'm Kaela Hansen, your co-host at the One Soccer Nation podcast. Today I have the pleasure of interviewing Nikki Haines. Nikki, thanks for taking the time. How are you today?
I'm doing well. I am enjoying a nice work from home day, and the weather is terrible,
It
so I'm
is.
staying inside. Yeah, unfortunately, here in Miami, it is nice and rainy and cloudy, and it's basically telling me stay inside and catch up
What's the
because
weather?
I am
What's the
always
degrees
outside.
right now?
Oh, let's see. It's
You can say it in
about
Fahrenheit. I was in America for a while, so I can kind of gauge.
okay, so it's 69 Fahrenheit.
Divide
It's
that
not
by.
very cold
It's
at
not
all.
it's not cold compared to where I am for sure.
No, it's pretty warm actually. Like it's not like super hot like in the 80s or 90s, but because it's so humid here, it's
Yeah,
like yeah.
it's
Like if it were
comfortable.
69 and sunny,
Hmm.
beautiful.
It'd be
But it's not.
perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like sunny here right now, but it's like freezing cold. So
Yeah, that doesn't
you're
sound
probably
fun.
way better where you're at over there. But can
Come
you?
join me whenever.
Yeah, I would love to. Just send
You're
me the
welcome. You
invite.
are welcome.
But could you please introduce yourself to the audience? Just kind of give a little background, a little quick background about yourself.
Yes. So I am here in Miami, Florida, born and raised in Broward, which isn't too far from here. I grew up playing soccer my whole life. Well, grew up playing sports my whole life. I didn't actually stick with soccer until I was probably about 12 or 13. And then it basically took over my life, and here I am, and I love it. It took me to college, it took me to pro, and even an unexpected journey to now playing pro beach soccer and on the national team for that, just taking me all over the world. So that's a little bit, I know we'll get into that later, but that's
Mhm.
that way. And then on a more other side of my career, I started my own coaching company down here, doing youth athletic development and performance training. So I've got a bunch of different sides to me, but yeah, I am a soccer player based out of Miami who does a little bit of everything.
You're versatile.
I like to think that both on and off the field.
Yeah. So, can
Yeah.
you share the journey that led you from playing professional soccer on grass in Europe and South America to representing the US on the beach soccer national team?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'll back up a little bit. So I played college here or in Orlando at Rollins College. From there, I went on to play in Sweden, Peru, and Uruguay, and I played for 4 years. Absolutely loved it. And then I don't know how much detail you want right now, but basically, I had a surgery back in 2018 on my hip, and that kept me out for about a year.
Mhm.
And I've always been really intrigued with the body and just like helping individuals in that aspect. So I originally was planning to go to PT school, switch that to PA school. So when I was home from my surgery, I ended up thinking my career was done, but not really done. And kind of mentally had to focus somewhere else. So I actually applied to PA school. I got into PA school, and then the day that I got accepted, I went back to Sweden. So that was another pretty much my last year of playing. Absolutely loved it. Came home, was in the best shape of my life. After that, I was healthy. I was getting ready to go back overseas. I had a couple of different offers, training down here in South Florida, meeting some great people, kind of starting my business without even knowing it. And then different offers were coming in that were in countries I wasn't really sure about, or teams that I maybe wanted, but like the offer wasn't the best, or there was some unsure situations. So, long story short, I just had this really big gut feeling that was like, something's off, don't go. And so I was kind of unsure about it. I got an offer to go to Israel, and they were basically like, you have to be here in 2 days.
Hmm.
And honestly, physically, I was in the best shape of my life. I was tip top on my skill level. I was ready to go, but something inside of me was just like not ready, telling me not to go. So I turned down my offer.
Mhm.
I stayed home, basically bawled my eyes out, trying to figure out what I'm going
Mhm.
to do with my life. And COVID hit a month later. And basically the whole world shut down. And in that process, found beach soccer. Now, throughout my years of playing grass, I was always asked to go out and play beach soccer here in the area, like with some of the guys that I played pickup with. And I was like, nope, that sounds terrible. Not gonna do it. I was still playing grass at the time, so I was like, nope, not gonna get injured, nothing. And then or then I finally turned grass down and I missed playing. And there was a tournament in the area. And it's like one last time, I was like, all right, I'll do it. I went out to the very first practice, which was like a day before the tournament. And in the beach soccer world, when we have a big tournament in the area, all the professionals or the players come into town early and they come to trainings. My very first training ever was with all the pros. And it was about it was so hard. I walked out of that training, I looked at my friend and I was like, I am terrible. I'm never coming back. Why did I do this? It was terrible. But then I was already committed to the tournament, so I played in it and I fell in love. The people were just so nice and so welcoming. It's a really different environment. The players in beach soccer. And even though I sucked at the drills in the one practice against all the pros, I did end up like excelling or seeing a spark in the games.
Mhm.
And I fell in love with it from then on. And at first I was playing for fun and just like playing in all these different tournaments and teams were asking to play with them. And then realizing that there actually is a national team and there's these teams all over the world. And that was even more exciting for me. So realizing that I could take it to the next level, I just kept training. And long story short, here I am. I've played in 11 different countries
Mhm.
and
That's
am now playing
amazing.
on the national team.
That's an
So that was
ama-
my long story short.
No, that was an amazing story. It's crazy. It's crazy how what you think would be setbacks actually,
Yeah.
open more opportunities for yourself to, try things that you probably thought you wouldn't have tried. You know what
Yeah,
I'm
it's
saying?
crazy. And I turned beach soccer down for 3 years. And I
Hmm.
always say now, like a lot of the our like core players on our national team have been
Hmm.
there for like 3+ years longer than me. And I'm
Hmm.
like, oh man, if I started right when they started, like I would be so much better.
Yeah, but
So
you had to go on your journey first in order, you had to go
yeah,
through what you were going through before you could join beach soccer. So it was
absolutely.
literally perfect timing when it did happen. But that's crazy. That's so cool. But like it's also important too, like you said, like you had a gut telling you not to go to that last team you're going to
Yeah,
go to in Israel. And like, it's important to always
it's
listen to your
crazy.
gut and what it's telling you. Like, if something doesn't feel right, don't do it and don't force yourself to do something. But that's
Yeah, that's
pretty
been the
cool.
biggest lesson for me, both in sport and just in life in general, is just like your gut is always right. And just like being able to really figure out like what that feeling is and going with your gut and
Yeah.
look what happens. So
Yeah. It's
yeah.
so it's so funny though, because you were saying like when you tried beach soccer for the first time. And you're like, I hate it. I don't want to do it. I feel like that's such like I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's just soccer players, but I have that too. Like whenever I'm trying, like such a competitive student, whenever I'm trying something new and I'm not good at it right away, I like automatically hate the sport. Like I don't like it. I'm so mad because I can't get it myself. But then once I figure it out, I'm like, oh, I like this. This is so fun. Like, why didn't I
Yeah.
do this before?
Like there's two sides to us as like athletes. We're like, okay, we like when we can get better and we can excel at something.
Yeah.
But if you are just making a complete fool of yourself and you're either tripping on the sand or you look like you can't even have a touch when literally you've been playing soccer your whole life or something like that. It's like, nope, nope, nope. So you have to be able to see that you could get better at it and just like having that mentality. Because as soon as it's not like I was an amazing player as soon as I started playing in games, but I saw the potential in it. And that was the really cool part of it. So I always tell people, like, I've been trying to get people to come out here all the time, and they have the same mentality I had. Oh my God, no, that sounds terrible. No way. I feel like I would die. I'm gonna make a fool of myself. And they'll come out to their first training and some of them will fall in love and some of them will absolutely hate it because they think that they suck. And I'm like, trust me, I was there keep going for it, like you'll fall in love. You'll love it. And yeah, and I'm hoping to just kind of continue growing that sport and showing people that don't be afraid of it. It's really fun and you can be really good at it, even if you think you can't.
Yeah, continuing on like that direction, like because it is like a unique and growing sport. Like where do you
Yes.
see it heading in the future?
Well, our big thing right now is working on the World Cup and the Olympics.
That's so cool.
Um, yeah, super exciting. We've been um, pushing for it. And when I say we, not just the US, but the community of beach soccer as a whole, especially in the female side. So the men do have a World Cup.
Mhm.
They're coming up this year. The women do not yet. And there's some reasons behind it in terms of just like growing the sport in more countries and stuff. But what's really cool is every country's national team and every country that has like all these club teams and stuff, yeah, we're all competitors playing against each
Mhm.
other, want to be the best, but we also have the same desired goal of getting to the World Cup and being the best. So you'll see all of us working together to push for that. So like we are constantly communicating with other players from other countries and meeting people in other teams and like recruiting players. So like I, for example, will go over and I've played with I
Okay.
have
Take your
played with
time.
all these different teams in different areas
Yeah.
from different countries. So I played in Spain, I played in Italy, I played in Portugal with all these different teams. And then in that process, you're also playing against other teams. You're meeting people and you're going from there. And what's cool is to see that we're all fighting for the same thing. So we've made videos together about like our goal to have a women's World Cup in beach soccer and Olympics, and to see all these teams come together is really cool. Like the passion and the community is just amazing. So we're just waiting for that day that FIFA's like, World Cup is in this date or on this date in this year. And then even with that, I think the Olympics will follow and big things coming every year, and we see multiple new countries just coming alive with the sport, and it's super exciting.
That's super cool.
Yeah.
Honestly, that is really cool. I really hope that does work out. And I feel like the way the direction's going with women's soccer in general right now, I feel like it will happen eventually.
It
But
will.
it
It
sucks that
will.
it doesn't happen at the same rate it does with men's sports, but we're getting there. We're getting there.
It is. And again, I understand you have to hear like all the different sides of it of like why men might have progressed more than women just because there's possibly more teams already arising in different countries and things like that. So there's always pros and cons and like reasons for why, but it is time that there is a beach soccer World Cup, and it is for the women's side, and it's coming. It's
Well,
coming
if
soon.
you guys keep doing what you're doing now and you just keep, giving more exposure to beach soccer, it will eventually come around. So,
It will. And I honestly think it's like any day now they're gonna announce it. So we're all of us are on our toes, just ready for
yeah,
that
just
to
getting
come
ready
through.
for that. That'd be so cool.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's a
Um,
goal of mine and a lot of my teammates and honestly everyone in the sport. So
yeah, I can
yeah.
imagine, especially when you've been like kind of doing it for a while now. You want more for your sport, but
Yeah,
it'll come.
absolutely.
I
It
want to
will.
watch those games. I'll be watching you on TV. That's so cool.
Yeah, you should. It is, it's it's such a cool sport to watch. I mean, especially as a soccer player, you love soccer.
Mhm.
Um, but then you take beach soccer, and a lot of people who don't even maybe know the sport of soccer love watching it. They're like, oh, I've the only opposite sides I've heard is there's not as many goals scored, like it's not quite as exciting. So at least beach soccer, it's 5 on 5, and you have it's like a much higher scoring game. And the goals are really cool. You're throwing chilenas, you're playing it in the air, you're lifting. So it's like a little bit different technique, um, faster style in a different way. Um, so yeah, for anyone who thinks they might not enjoy watching soccer, watch beach soccer. It's really cool.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And also too, I can imagine like beach soccer is probably a lot more quicker and stuff like that, where like as field soccer is more kind of like spread out on the field and it may be like
Yeah.
slower. So,
Yeah.
I
So
like
for
you said the other
those,
day, when we were on the meeting with Kareem, you were saying how like it kind of gives like hockey vibes a little bit or something, like just like the pace of it, like how fast it is.
Yeah, so I've been to hockey games. I know hockey, but I don't really know hockey, like the ins and outs. But when I try to explain the game of soccer, people are like, or beach soccer, they're like, oh, similar to the rules of hockey. So for those who don't know beach soccer, it is 5-on-5, four on the field and a goalie. But your goalie is basically like a fifth field player. The goals are pretty big. They're almost the same size as a regular 11v11 size goal,
Oh.
but you're in a field that's like, I believe the dimensions are 40 by 30, so it's a lot shorter. So you can shoot from anywhere. And then it's three 12-minute periods, but you sub on the fly. So you could go on for 2 or 3 minutes, work your butt off, you're sprinting like a racehorse, and then there's tactics behind on when you want to sub off, but you can just sub off, and a new player will sub on. Like you don't have to wait for the ball to stop, things like that. Um, and yeah, so I think from what I've learned, that's the similar style to the beach side or to the hockey side with
Mhm.
the subbing on the fly, the periods, things like that. Um, yeah, so that would be the relationship there that I've heard.
That's super cool though. Actually, it's crazy
It's
how,
intense.
yeah, it's crazy how it's like the same sport, but just like different surfaces that like changes like the rules of thing. But that's super cool.
Yeah, but you can take so like a lot of the newer players that come into beach soccer, you'll still be able to, yeah, the touch is going to be different only because you have to like lift it out of the sand a little bit, or you can find that niche if you can figure out how to dribble in the sand, which takes like a little bit of a scoop.
Mhm.
There's like an art to it, which is really cool. But you take someone who's come over from the grass side and that soccer IQ and the athleticism and just the general idea of touch and like what kinds of touch takes when. You might not be able to execute it right away, but it does translate over a lot. Like
Mhm.
it might be hard at first, but you'll see a big difference by having that background coming over to beach soccer and being able to see it out based on your positioning because you know the soccer IQ of the game, when to take certain types of touch, and then just working from there. So, yeah.
That's super cool. That is really cool. And it's cool that you were able to do that transition as well.
Yeah,
Very
I
versatile,
love
like
it
I
and I
said at the
recommend it
beginning.
to anyone. So even people who are still playing, like we have a few girls on the national team, um, who have played professionally as well, and some who are still playing professionally and then work in and out of their season. So pros and cons of beach soccer, we don't necessarily have, unfortunately, like a league that goes on all year long,
Mhm.
but the trying to find the positives in that. Like I'm home, I get to still have my full-time business. I train here
Mhm.
weekly with my group here, and then I leave when there's a big tournament. So I'll leave for a week or 2 weeks that tournament. I come right back. I get to work here. I get to train here, still have my life. And then you do have countries that do have leagues. For example, like Italy has a league, Spain has a league, Brazil, El Salvador, there's a few different areas, but the leagues aren't necessarily all year long. Like Spain will have a league that maybe it's 1 or 2 months long in the summer. Italy could be like a few weeks. I believe Brazil and El Salvador does almost go most of the
Mhm.
year, but it has like sections. It'll go for a few months and stop, and then like the second half of the season. Um, so it allows people to play both sports as well, grass and beach, if that's like a desire.
Okay, that's super cool.
Yeah,
So, like you mentioned when on your spare time, you do your training sessions. So, kind of like leading into now the business side of what you
yeah,
do. So you're the CEO and founder
yeah.
of Gaines Training.
Yeah.
How do you balance your role as a business leader with your career as a professional athlete? Like, what kind of motivates you? What motivated you in general to start Gaines?
So gains, okay, so how it started, it fell into my lap unexpected. Like I believe I said a little bit earlier that I've always been really intrigued and just the body and being able to grow from there, from the inside out. So the way I always learned within college and then wanting to go to PA school and PT school, I was always working in doctor's offices, physical therapy offices, obviously training on my own, working with different trainers and doctors and kind of looking how the body functions and how it moves. And So I was always trying to get extra hours. So when I came home and had my surgery in 2018 to kind of better myself as an athlete, or actually at this point, I was working to go to PA school. So I had my surgery and then I ended up working in that hospital. And the physical therapy office that I was with was phenomenal. So they were more like sports related. And so I learned a lot on both sides of those. When I got my offer to go back to Sweden, I had a lot of free time, and obviously I had just kind of put my PA school on the side, went to Sweden. I had a lot of free time, and I said, how can I better myself as an athlete? And then just I decided to get the hardest license certification that I could get. I looked up, I saw my strength and conditioning license, so I got my certification as a strength and conditioning specialist, and came home. Was training in my off season to go back to somewhere else, went to that story earlier,
Mhm.
and kind of was training a few athletes on the side just for fun because I loved it. And then, but at that time, I was training players as both on the field for soccer specific work and then in the gym for injury prevention and athletic development. And when I turned down my offers to continue playing pro grass, I realized that I could turn this into a full-time company.
Mhm.
And I got my LLC, I did all the business side of it and started growing the business. At the time for the first year, it was a lot. I loved it. I loved what I was doing, but I was training athletes like 8, 9, 10 sessions a day, sometimes indoor, sometimes outdoor. I'm moving around. And then traveling started picking up, and it was really hard to balance. One, just balance myself just doing too much, because when you do too much, you end up filling from like an empty cup and it's draining. So I kind of had this mentality at first. I was like, well, I can't really bring anyone on board because people are coming to me for me. But I kind of took that risk and like that jump, and I started looking for other coaches in the area who are wanting to also coach and have a similar personality and coaching philosophy, but then also still has their own little like twist to it. And slowly, little by little, started having them work with new clients coming to me. And we coordinate things all the time. So, like, I'm talking to my coaches, making sure I'm keeping up with the clients and explaining like what they're coming for and how their progress is, and vice versa. And the clients ended up loving them as well. And now I'm 5 years later, and I've had coaches come in and out, 4 to 5 coaches that have helped me on the days that I'm like, or the times that I'm traveling, or even just in general, the times that I, it's just too much on my plate. And it's been a really good balance. There's a
Mhm.
lot of pros and cons because consistency is always difficult. But it's really cool that all the business side that I've done has been learning from different individuals around me and just like having to do it. Like you don't really have much control. You have the finance side, you have the business side, you have the legality side, you have the educational side, you have the obviously working with the client. So it's a lot to balance, but at the same time, it's your own company and you get to do exactly what you want when you want. So there's no one sitting there and like yelling at you because you're doing it wrong or you're not doing it in time. It's how you want to do it when you want to do it, and then being able to have that team, because I've always been a team player and I don't like doing things alone. So bringing on a team has been really helpful in that way. And then just I think what's cool, it's obviously hard because I travel a lot, but the girls and the guys and the boys that I work with, they look up to me as like a mentor. So seeing that I'm still playing and seeing that I've done this and like knowing that that's a path that they can follow, it's not that bad when I leave because it's understanding. Um, Obviously it's hard, but I don't leave for that long, like I said earlier, which is really cool. So I might be gone for a week and then I'm back. And sometimes also work with clients online. I have a few girls that I work with out of other areas of Florida or California. And so you find ways to make it work as you go. Hard, but kind
Worth
of cool
it.
at the same time. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Because it's
Yeah.
your own. You get to be your own boss. Don't have to worry about people telling you what to do. and
I know
stuff
I don't
like
know if I
that.
could really work for anyone else
Mhm.
ever again, unless it's someone that is very open to just like seeing different views and like, because I love learning. I love learning. I love working from other people or working with other people. And like, I'll be that one that will still ask a million questions and like get other people's point of view. And like, I could be doing something and they could be doing it a different way. But as long as we're working towards the same goals, then I'm really cool and excited to see like how how their process works as well. So.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I also like that you said too that there was like a point where like it was in the like first few years it was getting a little bit too much for you and you didn't really have time to kind of like breathe or like
Yeah.
prioritize yourself. So I think it's really good that you mentions the importance of like work-life balance, like being able to
Huge.
not only, put time into, what you do, but also time for yourself because like if you overwork yourself, regardless if it's your sport or the business side of things or both and stuff like that, you can really burn out and it can really affect your mental. So it's really important to
Yeah.
find that balance, which is what you did. And now you have more like a work-life balance where you can like, prioritize what you do for yourself and also, your job that makes you happy. So I think that's really good that you mentioned that.
Yeah, absolutely. It's definitely a struggle that I fought in the past. And I see a lot of athletes and entrepreneurs, like, because we work so hard in what we do that, like, you're just like, how can we grow? How can we grow? How can we grow? But we forget that, like, you might be trying to grow, but if you're burning yourself out, you're gonna plateau. Like, sometimes you just have to, like, put yourself first. Like, I'll go out and let's say we train usually Tuesday, Thursdays at 7 a.m. And it's like a 45-minute drive for me. So I'll wake up at 6, I'll get myself ready. I'll get over there, I'll train for about 2 hours. By the time I get home, I eat, I am exhausted. So I try, luckily, I work with a lot of athletes who are in school. So I don't necessarily have to see the girls until probably like 3 or 4. So I get the midday to do like my office hours, take some time for myself, possibly get in my boots, my recovery boots, take a little nap if I need, which is pretty often, because I need to be able to have energy when I show up at my sessions with my girls. So like if I show up there and I'm drained, then the energy that I'm bringing into the gym or the fields with them, then they're going to kind of mimic that. So I want to have energy. I say I'm basically, even though I'm 31, I'm like a kid at heart. So I want to have that energy when I walk into the gym so that their energy is also like bouncing off each other. Really believe that energy is contagious. So
Yeah,
the way you carry yourself
I
is
agree.
how everyone's going to carry it around you.
I
Yeah.
agree. You're also a co-owner of ABFC Sports. How does your
Yes.
experience as a professional athlete influence your decisions and vision as a business owner in the sports industry?
Um, like I said before, same thing with my own personal company. It's really helpful to be an athlete in the sport and then be able to see the business side of it and kind of for someone who's never played the sport and then just have the business side, like yeah, you'll still excel. You have a lot of your strengths in that area, but I think it brings a different side to the table when you've been the player on the field and now you're on the outside looking at ways to grow it because there's a lot of players who might still be playing or who have been really, really, really good players and then stepped off and now it's like, okay, what do they do with themselves? Who've gone through that path. So I've been able to see both those sides, and then I've met a lot of really cool people who have done other sides of the business of soccer that you might not expect. So you have people who like own teams and own businesses, and the merchandising and the marketing and the franchising and all of that. And so being in the sport and then having the business side, I'm meeting all these different creatives, and I think that's been really cool. As long as you're always having an open mindset and willing to learn, I think it really connects well and you like the sky is the limit. So with ABFC, we have a group of individuals that we're actually all footy friends and living in South Florida. Actually, half of them don't even live in South Florida
Mhm.
anymore. But we all brought something different to the table, whether we owned our own business as trainers or as um, marketing people or as the Football for Good space or um, still players, things like that. We all brought something different to the table in order to bring this business to life, and that is building the community of soccer, both in art and playing. So we have taken a lot of connections and put on such amazing events, both for the art side and the playing side. And yeah, I'm super excited to see what else we can move forward with, especially with the World Cup coming and some big things.
Well, that's super amazing. It's crazy cool like how much you've already done and what you've been doing. But looking back at your journey so far, what is one piece of advice you would give to aspiring athletes and one piece of advice you wish someone had given you earlier in your career?
So, one piece of advice that I would give an aspiring athlete, um, is yes, you want to see like the big picture and the long-term goals, but focusing on what's in front of you. So, growing up, I actually was not that player who was like, I want to play on the national team. I want to play professionally. Like, that's my goal. I actually just loved what I was doing when I was doing it. So, like, yeah, I had all these little goals like, oh, I want to score more goals. I want to beat players. I want to become faster. I want this, I want that. But I was focusing on those little ones and I was literally enjoying the entire process. The players that I was playing with, the coaches that I was working with, the different mentors, things like that. And then before you know it, I'm graduating college and I was like, you know what? I think I still have a lot left in me. I want to go play pro. And then pro was finishing and I was like, I want to play another year. I want to play another year. And you're learning each time in each different experience you have, and you don't even realize the amount of doors that can open in front of you by just enjoying the process. I have a lot of teammates that I've worked with growing up who worked so hard just to become a national team player or a professional player, and then they got burnt out. And then before you know it, their career is done, and they might have not even enjoyed the entire process because they're focusing on so many other things. So, always going with an open mind and enjoying the present and the little goals. So, even my philosophy in my company is the small details make a big difference.
Mhm.
Focus on the small things at hand and see the big pictures that come to life.
That's super cool. I really enjoyed this conversation, but
I know I'm
Nikki,
talkative, sorry.
what? No, no, I really enjoyed this
Talkative.
conversation. You make it so much
Thank you.
easier when it makes it so much easier when the guest I have is talking because then I don't have to do as much talking. I can just listen.
Well, call me back anytime. I can talk your
I
ear off.
will, I'll just add you in quickly to the call.
Perfect.
But
Hands up.
yeah, Nikki, thank you again for taking the time to be on the One Soccer Nation podcast. I really appreciate that.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it. And for everyone tuning in and listening, if you ever have any questions in any of the bazillion aspects that I have tapped into, feel free to reach out um, on social or individually. And yeah, love to help.
You heard it here first. Hit her up.